Most people believe that if things go wrong, they can still leave. They imagine traffic, delays, and crowds. But movement doesn't disappear all at once. It narrows. It slows. And then suddenly it stops. In a national failure, there is a moment most people never see coming, the point where movement becomes impossible. Not dangerous. Not difficult. Impossible. In this video, you're going to see where movement becomes impossible first. Why escape windows close faster than people expect, and how infrastructure, geography, and timing decide whether you can still move or whether you're already trapped. This isn't speculation. This is how real systems lock in place. And by the end, you'll understand why most people don't fail to leave. They leave too late. Movement doesn't fail everywhere. It fails at choke points. The biggest myth of collapse is freedom of movement. People assume roads are neutral. That fuel is available. That access remains open. But movement is not a right inside a system. It's a service. And like every service, it has capacity limits. Once demand exceeds that capacity, movement doesn't just slow, it collapses. Not because of panic, but because infrastructure is finite. Imagine a single highway out of a city. It can handle a certain number of cars per hour. What happens when everyone tries to leave at once? It's not a traffic jam. It's a parking lot. The road ceases to function. This is the first critical lesson. Capacity is the hidden ceiling on your ability to escape. When that ceiling is hit, the game changes. Movement fails in layers. First, fuel availability becomes uneven. Gas stations in major cities run dry, while rural ones might still have some. But soon the supply trucks stop running, and those refueling points shut down for good. Then long-distance transport breaks. Trains are cancelled, flights are grounded, and buses stop operating. After that, the roads still exist, but they no longer function as a system. Traffic lights lose power and coordination. Maintenance stops, so a small accident or a fallen tree can block a road for days, not hours. Access rules tighten as local authorities or even unofficial groups set up checkpoints to control who comes and goes. At this stage, movement isn't blocked by force. It's blocked by friction. Every kilometer costs more energy, more time, and more resources than the last. You aren't just driving. You're navigating a broken system. And some places amplify this friction faster than others. Think about a city on an island, like Manhattan, connected only by bridges and tunnels. Those are natural choke points. One blockage on each, and millions of people are contained. Or consider a city in a valley with only a few highways winding through the mountains. These geographical features dictate the flow of movement. If you live downstream from a major metropolitan area along the only interstate, you're not just dealing with your own town's evacuation, you're in the path of a human river. The choke points aren't just physical either, they're logistical. Fuel depots, bridges, mountain passes, and even regional distribution centers for food and supplies. When these nodes fail, they create a ripple effect, isolating entire regions long before the roads themselves become impassable. Understanding where these choke points are, both in your immediate area and along your potential routes, is the key to understanding your real window of opportunity. So what does this mean for you? It means the window to leave is not measured in days, but in system integrity. The moment a crisis is officially announced is often the moment the system begins to seize. By the time the majority of people realize they need to move, the choke points are already overloaded, fuel is scarce, and the friction on the roads is reaching its peak. The real escape happens before the panic, not during it. It requires anticipating the failure points, not just reacting to the news. It's about understanding that the road ahead isn't an open path, but a series of gates that are closing one by one. The question isn't whether you can get out. It's whether you can get out before the system locks you in. Most people wait for a clear signal to act, but in a true collapse, the loudest signal is the sound of the doors locking behind you. This isn't about fear, it's about foresight. By understanding how these systems truly work and where they are most fragile, you can make smarter decisions when it matters most. It's about seeing the board for what it is, a network with limits, not an open field of possibilities. What if I told you that the end of movement isn't a slow, gradual decline? It's a sudden, catastrophic lock-in. And it doesn't happen everywhere at once. Certain places are designed to fail faster than others. When you start mapping out system failures, the same locations pop up, time and time again. Think about major metropolitan corridors, those sprawling highways connecting huge cities. Think about regions that depend entirely on bridges to get in or out. And consider areas that rely on a constant, just-in-time flow of fuel to keep everything moving. These are the hotspots. These places don't just slow down. They come to an abrupt halt. One small restriction can set off a chain reaction. A checkpoint here, a closed road there. Suddenly, access points narrow, and the exits you thought you had simply vanish. Once these bottlenecks form, movement doesn't just pause, it reverses. People stop trying to leave. They start getting stuck, trapped in a system that has turned against them. Imagine a highway where every lane is blocked. That's not just a traffic jam. It's the end of mobility for everyone caught in it. Now, let's contrast this with the places where movement still works, even under extreme pressure. There are regions that stay mobile for much longer. It's not because they're inherently safer or have better infrastructure. In fact, it's the opposite. They remain mobile because they're simpler. They have fewer major access points to control. The travel distances are shorter. And most importantly, they have a lower dependency on that continuous, fragile fuel supply. In these areas, movement doesn't look fast or impressive. It looks controlled, deliberate, and sustainable. This control is what keeps it alive when the more complex systems are collapsing. Think of a network of local roads versus a single, massive interstate. The local roads offer more options, more flexibility, and are less prone to a single point of failure that brings everything crashing down. Simplicity equals resilience. But here's the critical part. Timing is everything. Reaching these more resilient zones depends entirely on when you decide to move. There is always a window of opportunity, but it's incredibly brief, unevenly distributed, and practically invisible to most people until it's too late. By the time official restrictions are announced, that window is already slamming shut. By the time the news makes movement feel risky, it's almost certainly too late to act. After that point, the system doesn't just collapse outward, pushing people away. It locks inward, trapping everyone inside. The doors don't just close. They are bolted from the outside. Understanding this dynamic is the difference between having options and having none. So what does all of this mean for you right now? This isn't about spreading fear or indulging in some wild escape fantasy. This is about a cold, hard look at logistics. It's about understanding the precise moment when movement stops being a viable option. Because in a real-world system failure, survival isn't about how fast you can run or how powerful your vehicle is. It's about your position asterisk before asterisk the system locks. It's about being in the right place at the right time, which is usually right before everyone else realizes they need to be somewhere else. If this analysis has helped you see collapse and survival in a new light, consider subscribing to the channel. Here, we map where systems are designed to fail, where they are built to hold, and where survival remains a tangible possibility. Now I want to leave you with a question. If all movement became impossible tomorrow, if every road was blocked and every exit sealed, would you already be where you need to be to survive? Think about it. Let me know your answer in the comments. This is 0 Hour Atlas. We don't predict doom. We map what survives. Thanks for watching.